Fight Club tells something most people never notice: the invisible emptiness inside a modern man, why he feels nothing, and why, one day, Tyler Durden appears in his mind. And maybe this story is more familiar than you think. Fight Club first shows us a man who feels very familiar. Everything in his life seems to be in order. He has a job, he has a routine, he has a nice apartment. His days look the same. Same conversations, same routine, same safe life. And the strange part is this: there is no major problem in his life, yet there is a huge emptiness inside him. He fills his home with furniture chosen from catalogs. Instead of living his life, he furnishes it. He is sleepless, he's tired. He doesn't complain about his life, but he's not happy either, because what's exhausted is not his body, but his mind. You start confusing masculinity with working, with producing, with earning, with taking responsibility. But whenever you are left alone with yourself, you feel a void. You don't recognize your emotions, you suppress your anger, you try to look strong because that's how masculinity was taught to you. You are not actually sick, but the emptiness inside you is real, and you never try to solve it by stopping, only by escaping. Today, many of us are doing the same. The moment you are left alone, you escape. To your phone, to social media, to shows, to games, to porn, to work. Anything as long as you are not alone. Because when you are alone, what you face is not silence, it is yourself. In Fight Club, the narrator did this in support groups. He escaped his own emptiness by stepping into other people's pain. He could relax there because their pain was real. What they had, he didn't. And by watching their emotions, he could forget his own numbness. Then someone appears in your life. Someone who doesn't follow the rules. Someone who doesn't filter themselves. Someone who is uncomfortably real. They don't hide the things you hide. They live the things you suppress. And around them, you feel something strange. You feel drawn to them and disturbed at the same time. Because what they are living is real. What you are living is controlled. In Fight Club, this person's name was Marla Singer.
This is cancer, right?
You look at them and realize something for the first time. They are actually feeling life. You are managing it. You feel interested, but you don't dare to step closer because you are safe. They are real. You are controlled. They are alive. And a thought quietly forms in your mind. What if I could be someone who could impress them? And right at that moment, Tyler Durden begins to appear. But Tyler is not just a man we see in the film. Tyler is the part of you that has been suppressed. He says the things you cannot say. He does the things you cannot do. He walks into the places you don't dare to enter. He doesn't care about the things you are afraid to care about. Because Tyler is masculinity in its unfiltered form. Uncontrolled, untamed, uncivilized. He's strong, he's relaxed, he's fearless. He doesn't live by rules, but by instinct. He is what Marla already is, real, alive, unfiltered. The narrator was trying to manage life. Tyler started living it. That is why Tyler had to emerge inside the narrator's mind, because everything that is suppressed eventually comes back. And then something important happens. The narrator loses his apartment. Everything he owned is gone. The furniture, the carefully chosen objects, the life he built from catalogs, all of it disappears overnight. And this is not just an explosion in the film, this is the destruction of his comfort zone, the destruction of the identity he built around things. Because until that moment, his life was safe, sterile, controlled, predictable. He didn't have to feel anything. He could hide behind routine, behind work, behind possessions. But now, there is nothing to hide behind. No walls, no objects, no identity. And when a man loses the place where he hides, he is forced to face what is inside him. This is where Tyler becomes stronger, because the narrator has nothing left to hold on to. And when comfort disappears, instinct starts to speak. This is exactly why Fight Club is born. Not because they want to fight, but because they want to feel. Pain becomes proof of existence. A punch becomes more real than an entire lifetime of routine. Blood becomes more honest than words. For the first time, these men feel something real. Not through screens, not through work, not through consumption, but through direct physical experience. They are not fighting each other. They are fighting numbness. Fight Club is not about violence. It is about waking up. Because when comfort is gone, when routine is gone, when identity built on objects is gone, the only thing left is the raw self. And for the first time in their lives, they meet that self. And something unexpected happens. When these men step outside their comfort zones, they don't fall apart, they start to feel alive. For the first time, they are not performing, not pretending, not managing an image, just existing. No titles, no jobs, no status, just breath, sweat, pain, and presence. And in that raw state, they meet themselves. Not the version shaped by society, not the version trained to be polite, productive, and quiet, but the version that was buried underneath all of that. And this is where masculinity begins to rebuild them. Not the toxic version people talk about, but the primal, grounded, instinctive version. The version that says, I am here, I can endure, I can take a hit and stand back up. No therapy session gives them this, no motivational speech, no self-help book. Because what they needed was not advice, they needed to feel real again. Outside the comfort zone, they finally relax, because they are no longer pretending to be civil. Fight Club becomes a place where the system's domestication breaks, where men stop behaving and start existing. The system taught them to be safe. Fight Club teaches them to be present. The system taught them to consume. Fight Club forces them to confront themselves. The system taught them to suppress instinct. Fight Club awakens it. And for the first time in a long time, these men are not numb. They are awake. But then something dangerous happens. Fight Club grows. What started as a place to feel slowly becomes a place to belong. And belonging is powerful, especially for men who have felt invisible for so long. At first, they were there to meet themselves. Now they are there to follow Tyler. This is where the psychology changes. It is no longer about self-discovery. It becomes about loyalty. Because when people are in crisis, they don't want freedom, they want direction. Tyler gives them that. He names the enemy, the system, consumerism, modern life. And when a man in crisis is given a clear enemy, he feels relief. Because confusion is heavy, but anger is simple. Then comes the next step, authority. Tyler stops being a voice, he becomes a leader. Rules appear, orders appear, obedience appears, and without realizing it, they build a new system, the same kind of system they were trying to escape. Names disappear, identity disappears, questioning disappears. It starts to look less like a club and more like a cult. This is one of the deepest messages of Fight Club. People don't actually hate systems, they hate feeling powerless inside them. Give them power and they will build the same system again. Tyler, who hated control, became the one giving orders. Tyler, who rejected authority, became authority. And the men who came to find themselves slowly stopped thinking for themselves. Because it is easier to follow a strong voice than to face your own mind. And then the narrator realizes something terrifying. Tyler is not a leader. Tyler is himself. The voice he followed, the man he trusted, the authority he obeyed was his own suppressed mind. And this is where the film becomes brutally honest, because this is not just about Tyler. This is about what happens when a man stops thinking and starts following his anger. The narrator sees what the group has become. Men who came to wake up have become men who no longer question. They don't ask why, they don't think, they just obey. This is the true danger of Kitla psychology. It doesn't make you evil, it makes you unconscious. You stop being an individual, you become part of a force, and forces don't think, they move. The narrator understands something painful. He didn't escape the system, he rebuilt it inside himself. Tyler gave them meaning, but he took away their mind. Because when anger leads, awareness disappears. When belonging feels good, individuality feels unnecessary. And when a strong voice speaks, silence inside your head feels like peace. That is when you are the most vulnerable. The narrator sees the truth too late. The fight was never outside, it was always inside. Tyler was right about one thing. Modern men are not broken, they are disconnected. Disconnected from their emotions, disconnected from their instincts, disconnected from themselves. The system didn't hurt them, the system domesticated them. It taught them to be safe instead of alive, to be productive instead of present, to be quiet instead of expressive. Tyler saw this clearly. Men were no longer living, they were managing their lives. Working jobs they hated, buying things they didn't need, building identities out of possessions, and calling that a life. He was right when he said, "The things you own end up owning you." He was right when he showed that these men were starving, not for money, not for success, but for meaning. He understood something very few people dare to say. A man without struggle starts to disappear, not physically, but psychologically. And Fight Club proved it. The moment these men struggled, they came back to life. Tyler was right when he exposed the lie that comfort equals happiness, because comfort without meaning turns into emptiness, and emptiness, if ignored long enough, turns into anger. Tyler saw the anger, and he gave it a voice. That is why Tyler feels so powerful, because he says the things men are not allowed to say. He points at the system and says, "This is not life."
But Tyler was also deeply wrong, because he identified the problem, but chose the wrong solution. He believed destruction would bring freedom, that chaos would create meaning, that pain alone could heal. But pain without awareness turns into violence, and anger without direction turns into fanaticism. Tyler woke these men up, but he didn't teach them how to think. He gave them an enemy, he gave them orders, he gave them a system to follow. And without realizing it, they stopped being individuals again. They were no longer numb, but they were no longer conscious either. They replaced one prison with another. This is the real tragedy. Tyler helped them feel alive, but he took away their ability to choose. Because true masculinity is not destruction, it is control. Not control over others, control over yourself. Tyler had power, but he did not have balance. And without balance, masculinity becomes dangerous. That is why the narrator had to stop him. Not because Tyler was wrong about the world, but because he was wrong about the way out. In the end, the narrator doesn't destroy Tyler. He understands him. He realizes Tyler was never the enemy. Tyler was a signal, a warning, a part of himself that had been ignored for too long. And maybe that is why Fight Club still feels so relevant today. Because millions of men are living exactly like the narrator. They have a life, but they don't feel alive. They are safe, but they feel empty. They are functioning, but they are disconnected. And inside them, there is a Tyler waiting, not to destroy the world, but to remind them that they are still here. The real lesson of Fight Club is not to become Tyler and not to remain the narrator. It is to understand both, to keep the awareness of the narrator and the strength of Tyler. Because masculinity is not about violence, and it is not about suppression. It is about being grounded, present, alive. And maybe the reason this film hits so hard is because it shows a truth many men cannot explain. They are not broken. They are disconnected from themselves. And the fight was never outside. It was always inside, just like it is today.